Greetings my friends and welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George and this is the No Nonsense Metal Reviews Top 10 Songs of 2022. So, give you a bit of background, I've been pretty astounded by the response and the feedback and the views on the top 15 albums of 2022, which I've done recently. And I'm very grateful for all of the feedback and all of the comments, and it's good to have a bit of discussion about this stuff. It's interesting to hear other people's points of views, their thoughts and feelings on those albums. But it got me thinking. Okay, so I've got my favourite albums, but what are my favourite songs of the year? What are the songs that have, really got stuck in my head that I've just kept humming to myself or screaming along to in the car? What are the most memorable songs of the year for me? And that's an important thing to point out. This is not a definitive list of the greatest hits of 2022 or the biggest selling tracks or the most popular tracks. This is entirely my opinion. So before you take a stab, please appreciate this is just my opinion, my point of view, my taste. So these songs, as I say, they might not be the most successful. Actually, they might not be the best songs. You might think, that song's crap, or that was nothing compared to blah, blah, blah. But for me, these are the ones that I have found most memorable and most enjoyable. So the only rule that I've had while picking this top 10 songs of 2022 is that I have made sure that I don't pick more than one song from an album. So that's been quite tough because some of my favourite albums of the year, if you saw that video, then those albums have start to finish great tracks all the way through, and you think, oh damn, is that song really better than that one? Depending on what time of the day you ask me, I might say something completely different. But for now, these are the rundown of the top 10 songs for my personal taste anyway of the year. And there are some newcomers, some more recent releases. There's some that were released, albums and tracks that were released far earlier on in the year, but they're the ones that have really stuck with me. So without further delay, we will kick off with what is actually a recent release. Didn't quite make it into my top 15 albums, this one, mainly because it was a little bit too late and I'd already been working and deliberating through the list for quite a while, and I just didn't have as long to familiarise myself. But ever since I heard this album, it was one of the lead singles from the new Disturbed album, Divisive, I have not been able to get Bad Man out of my head. There's something about that riff, something about that crunchy groove. It's so heavy. That song really does take me back to the Disturbed of 10,000 Fists or even Indestructible era. We've got a big chorus, we've got plenty of hooks there, but it's just the grooviness of that riff. And it's a thick, heavy riff. I felt that the previous album, Evolution, and even Immortalize at times, they kind of lacked the punch that Disturbed, in my opinion, always had. They were a new metal band, they are a new metal band, yes, but they were a little bit heavier. Heavier than Korn and heavier than Deftones or whoever else. I'm not massively in the know with new metal, to be honest. Disturbed and Slipknot, probably the only bands of that sound and style that I actually connect with and actually listen to. But Bad Man from Divisive is an absolute belter. Short, heavy, tons of groove, a really catchy melody to it. Really catchy riff, and it just immediately infectious. Stuck in your ear, you can't stop humming it. So this is loosely based in an order between, they're 10 tracks. Even if this is number 10, it doesn't mean that this is, it's alright, No, it's a really bloody good song. So loosely going in this order, this is number 10, Bad Man from Divisive by Disturbed. killer album, in fact. Just shame it came out a little bit too late to really have enough time for me to get familiar with it. And then maybe it would have actually been in the top 10 or top 15 albums, rather. But Bad Man certainly made it into my list. So up next, we have an extreme metal band, very brutal band, but I do appreciate a few of you have commented on the top 10, top 15, I keep saying top 10, top 15 albums video that I did, that actually Lorna Shaw might not be the most brutal band in the world, but I think it's just because I predominantly listen to heavy metal, thrash, power metal, things of that nature, that to me, Lorna Shaw sound unbelievably heavy. Absolutely insanely, crushingly brutal. But, okay, I appreciate. Maybe I'm overstating it slightly. But you know what? There's no doubt that Lorna Shaw have delivered the goods this year. This album, Pain Remains, was in my top 15 albums, and deservedly so. This is an absolute bruiser, and although it's not so often stuck in my head, I did have the breakdown, the rhythm of the breakdown from the opening track, Welcome Back, Oh Sleeping Dreamer, in my head for a while. And I thought, okay, is that really enough to justify it being one of my top 10 songs of the year? And actually, I'm going to say that it is, because from the moment I heard it, I was mesmerised and blown away by the combination of very symphonic, very orchestral passages, huge sound, beautiful soundscapes, contrasted with crushing breakdowns, super heavy, super technical riffs, guttural vocals, a real different variety of vocal performances and techniques there. It's so freaking heavy, in my opinion. Hey, maybe you might think, Lorna Shaw, that's weak. So-and-so is way heavier. But I think this is damn heavy, and I think that opening track, I mean, there's numerous tracks on here that I could have picked, really, but I'm going with Welcome Back, Oh Sleeping Dreamer, because I think it is blindingly heavy and also shows a whole lot of creativity, of songwriting ability. I think these guys are great. I really do. That track, Welcome Back, Oh Sleeping Dreamer, is a standout for me. I think the more you listen to it, the more intricate it becomes. It just reveals its intricacies, its technicality. So, 9, we're going with Lorna Shaw from the album Pain Remains with the track Welcome Back, Oh Sleeping Dreamer. So, on to number 8 now. So, number 8, I'm going with one of my first musical loves. I'm going with Slipknot with the new album The End So Far. This is an album that I really do have a bit of a love-hate relationship with. I say love-hate, I don't hate it, I just struggle to understand it. And then I'll listen to it and I'll think, God, this is such a good album, you know, this is really good. And then I'll remember the opening track, Adderall, and then I'll remember the Dying Song and Deceivers and tracks like that, Medicine for the Dead, and I'll think, actually, maybe this is just a little bit too far afield for Slipknot. Maybe it's just a little bit too complicated, a little bit too difficult to understand. But I will say that there are some tracks on this album, The End So Far, that really do stand out. I mean, there are some great tracks. The Chapeltown Rag is a really good song. Hive Mind is a really brutal track. Heirloom is another good one. But for me, the standout track has to be number 10, H377. What it means, I do not know. But H377 is a brutal track. Although there is a part in the sort of the build and the breakdown section of the song that reminds me a little bit too much of Unsainted. It's almost the same breakdown. But that aside, the vocal delivery is heavy as hell and very aggressive. Almost going straight back to the sort of the nu metal rapping delivery. Not a huge fan of that sort of vocal style, I must admit. But I will say that Corey does an amazing job. The riffs are heavy, the percussion is bruising, And I have had that stuck in my head, not currently, but periodically. There's something about the riff and the delivery of the vocals. H377 is one of those tracks that's a little bit kind of lost in amongst the album. It's towards the end of the album, but you know what? That's one of the heaviest moments on this album for sure. H377, a very heavy track, great vocals, as I say. It's just those riffs, heavy as hell. And also, I particularly like it because you get a very tasty solo from Jim Root, guitarist there. Very distinctive and iconic guitar sound that he has. And I think this album really does have an absence of great solos and leads, I must admit. That has some fine guitar technicality there and fine guitar work, and you can tell that it's Jim because of his signature sound. So, number 8, Slipknot. From the end so far, we're going with H377. Heavy. Certainly memorable. So, on to number 7. Very catchy song, this one. This one belongs to Lamb of God with their killer latest album, Omens. Was well deserved a high placement in my top 15 albums. Love this album. I think it's killer, and there are numerous tracks again that I could have picked. Love the opening track, Nevermore. Love to the Grave. Gomorrah is heavy as hell, but Ditch is the one that stands out for me. So I'm going number 7, Ditch. Killer riffs. Absolutely love it. Really heavy builds. You've got these hammering walls of chug. Great stuff. The vocal delivery from Randy is top notch, so aggressive. He's on fine form. It's great. It's full of hooks. Really memorable. That chorus is brutal. It's got that sort of almost southern swagger to it. It's got that vibe, that attitude, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's heavy. I think it's got it all. Like I say, tons of hooks, killer riffs, great musicianship there. Absolutely love it. And when I first heard this album, I think on the first or second listen to it, perhaps, that was the song that was stuck in my head. Ditch. Great, short, aggressive title as well. And the lyrics are certainly unpleasant in that respect, shall we say. So, Lamb of God from Omens, their wonderful new album. We are going with Ditch for track number 7. Moving on then, we are going with another more recent discovery for me. Not a recent album, it's been out since, I think it came out in August, but I was late to get the album. Too late for it to be in my top 15 albums of the year, because it was just a bit too expensive for too long, and then recently it went down in price, so I have recently reviewed it. But do you know what? I love this album. This is The Great Heathen Army by Monomath. If you've seen recently, I did the full in-depth review of the album, and the one track that has really stuck in my head is the one that is totally different from the rest of the tracks. It's the more heavy metal, traditional heavy metal rooted track. Great swaggering, groovy, galloping riffs. Upbeat, it's joyous, it's raucous. I'm going with track number 3, which is Hadron. A song about a goat on the roof of Valhalla, the Great Hall, serving mead. That is so metal, it has to be true. So Hadron is a great track. It's full of hooks, it's very memorable, very catchy, and it's the musicianship. I mean, Johann's vocals are top notch. He is on top form throughout the whole album. I think he's one of the best vocalists in sort of melodic death metal, because he has that more of a heavy metal singer vocal delivery. Doesn't sing in that style, no, but you can hear what he's saying. He's got a clear vocal delivery, but it's harsh, it's guttural, it's deep. I think he just sounds fantastic. But Hadron is such a catchy song. So hooky, absolutely love it. Like I say, those galloping heavy metal riffs, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely love it. Some great percussive work there as well. The bass, very distinctive. Absolutely love it. So I'm going number 6 with a Monomath from the Great Heathen Army. This is Hadron. A hilarious song about a goat who can serve mead. Love it. Incredibly catchy song there. So, down to number 5. So, number 5 for me was an obvious choice from this album. This was the album that has really introduced me to the band because I was not familiar with Amorphis until... Well, I was familiar with them, but not a fan. I hadn't really explored enough of their material. But this album, Halo, has really blown my mind. It was well deserved a high spot in my top 15 albums. The track for me that really stands out is track number 3, and that is The Moon. I absolutely love that track. It is so memorable. There's beautiful vocals, female vocals, sort of like a choir delivery, chant, almost like a siren song. It's really beautiful, but there's some great synths and key work there as well. Creates this beautiful soundscape. The heavy elements are heavy, the heavy vocals are aggressive, but it's a very progressive track as well. There's a lot of, shall we say, different elements, a little bit technical, a little bit of technicality or intricacy there, but it's very progressive, almost like an Opeth style progressive. But I love this album start to finish. But that track, The Moon, is beautiful. It's very memorable stuff. It's just one of those tracks that you hear it and it gives you the goosebumps. Your hairs are standing on end. It's so chillingly beautiful. It's got that Nightwish kind of beauty to it as well. Absolutely love it. So I would say number 5, Amorphis from Halo. We're going with The Moon, a stunning, beautiful track. If you're not familiar with Amorphis, then this was the album that got me into the band, and I've progressively been working my way back through their catalogue, but it's a fantastic album, and that is a fantastic song. Absolutely love that one. So we're going down to number 4 now. Now, I love thrash, and I love Creator, and I love blinding speed riffs. I love that, of course, but from this album, this is, of course, Hate Uberles, the newest album from Creator, a masterpiece, a seriously heavy album. I think it's slightly heavier, well, actually much heavier, than some of their more recent releases. It's a short, sharp punch. It's not an over-bloated, overindulged album by any means at all. It's thrashing. But the one track that really sticks in my mind is actually the track which is far more of a traditional heavy metal track. It's Become Immortal, which is a fantastic song. That is number 6 on this album. It's a fantastic track. We get these galloping heavy metal riffs. We've got a great chorus. It's very anthemic. Millie Petrosa's vocals, he's so distinctive. He's got such a distinctive voice. He does an amazing performance on this album. But that track in particular, great hooks, great musicianship. It's a very good, solid, heavy metal track. And it's very catchy. That melody is very catchy. There's a huge or sort of choir anthem build there. The chorus is massive, as I say. And it's just a seriously hooky track. Become Immortal, Creator from Hate Uberles. It's a very, very good song. Yeah, it's not necessarily Creator's primary style. They are a thrash band. They've always really been rooted in thrash, although of course there are some albums, Endorama, Renewal, which are not really thrash, a little bit of a deviation, but by and large we know Creator for delivering high quality thrash. But actually they're showing here on tracks like Become Immortal that they can deliver high quality heavy metal or speed metal. So that's my choice for number 4 from Hate Uberles, Become Immortal. On to number 3 then. So, number 3, there was actually too many songs on this album that I thought, that's got to be the one. If I can pick one from that album, it's got to be that. and then I would listen to the album again, and another track would stick in the mind. It'd be like, damn, you know what? I think maybe this one, or maybe this one, or maybe this one. Start to finish, Deceivers is memorable. It's packed full of hooks, catchy stuff. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. This is probably, really, this is the first album of Arch Enemy that I really got into. I'd heard bits and pieces, wasn't all that familiar with them. Now I absolutely love them. I think, where have they been, or where have I been all these years to have only just recently discovered them? But better late than never. So number 3, from Deceivers, I am going with track number 4, which was one of the lead singles, I believe, The Watcher. So any of those 3 tracks preceding it, Handshake with Hell, Deceiver, Deceiver, In the Eye of the Storm, even Sunset Over the Empire, Spreading Black Wings, these are great tracks. These are very memorable things. But what I love about The Watcher is that it's got a very anthemic feel to it, a massive chorus, but it also delivers some of the fastest, thrashing, most brutal riffs of the whole album. It is a heavy as hell song with a perfect contrast, with a massive, anthemic, very catchy, very hooky, very memorable chorus. Alyssa's vocals are first rate, but it's those thrashing, blinding, speedy riffs. Absolutely killer stuff. Love it. It's just a brilliant track. This is a fantastic album, but The Watcher is the standout for me. I have to say, if I was going to pick the one song, which I am, The Watcher is the one. So, Arch Enemy from Deceivers, a mighty fine album which ranked very highly in my top 15, as you may have seen. The Watcher is one of those absolute standout moments. It is a brilliant, brilliant high point for melodic death metal. Love it. So that is my number 3. On to number 2. So my number 2, this is probably the choice and the album which I struggled to pick which song was going to be my favourite from the album the most, because for me this album is flawless start to finish. It's an absolute mind blower, especially when you consider that this band has been around for a number of years now, but their last album was, let's be frank, it was a massive disappointment. They have released some absolutely incredible benchmark albums, so it was concerning when they started to show a little bit of a decline in their releases and in their sound and their style. But when I first heard of Kingdom and Crown by Machine Head, it absolutely blew my freaking mind. I was absolutely stunned, and you know what? I had to give the place to that opening track, Slaughter the Martyr. Not just because it has a absolutely brutal metal as hell name, which it certainly does, but it is an absolute bruiser. The first part of the song, the first half of the song, is a slow, it's very eerie, it's very moody, it's very dark intro. Then we get Rob Flynn doing some of the best clean vocal work of his career. Hands down, on this album overall, Rob Flynn sounds better than he ever has. He sounds brilliant, he's got a genuinely powerful, good voice here. That first half, where he's doing those cleans, you feel the emotion, you can feel the energy. It is so powerful. When things build, and the heaviness comes in, there is a heavy build, the drumming, it's rolling, the riffs are starting to chug, and then the breakdown comes. Rob announces, he commands Slaughter the Martyr, and the breakdown riffs, the chug begins, and you just can't help but headbang and flail around to it. It's freaking great. I absolutely love it. I mean, there's numerous tracks on this album, as I say, pretty much start to finish, that I could have picked. Choke on the Ashes of Your Hate, Become the Firestorm, My Hands Are Empty is beautiful as well, because it combines this sort of, shall we say, more melodic edge with this crushing heaviness, along with Unhallowed as well. Kill Thy Enemies, Bloodshot is another killer one. Arrows in Words from the Sky. Start to finish, it's a freaking great album. Absolutely love it. But number 2, Slaughter the Martyr, is definitely an album highlight. Absolutely love it. Just thinking about it, just replaying those riffs in my head, it's a no-brainer. Absolutely love it. So Slaughter the Martyr, Machine Head from Of Kingdom and Crown. So, number 1, if you've been following my channel, if you've watched the top 15 albums, if you've just heard my ramblings in my other reviews, then you will know that my favourite band is the Mighty Saxon. New album Kings, heavy metal gods, absolutely love it. This is my favourite album of the year, so it's not going to be too far beyond imagination to think that a track from Carpe Diem was probably going to be one of my favourite songs of the year. And, you know, just like with Hate Uberles and a few of these other choices, in fact, it's not necessarily the most obvious songs from an album which are going to be your favourite. But I have to say that track number 3, The Pilgrimage, bear in mind I love this album start to finish, I think it's a masterpiece, but The Pilgrimage is definitely the track that I have had stuck in my head the most. It's the, shall we say, the equivalent of Broken Heroes or The Eagle Has Landed. It's slower paced, or Red Star Falling even. It's slower paced, but it's a heavy metal track. It's very melodic. It's very memorable stuff. It's very emotive. There's a lot of power there. It's just a great heavy metal track. Not an absolute bruiser like Destroyer or Heavy Metal Thunder, nor is it a slow acoustic track or anything like that. No, it's just got tons of power. Biff's vocals, fantastic. He's got such power in his vocals, such a strong vocal performance there, a strong vocal delivery. Absolutely love this album and love that song, The Pilgrimage. It's one of those tracks where it really does cut deep. You have to stop what you're doing and focus on the track. You really feel it. It gives me the chills, gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, let alone actually listening to it. It's a killer track. We get a all sort of orchestral, choir intro, beautiful musicianship. It's got it all. The Pilgrimage, a very different sounding track compared to the rest of the album, but it's a fantastic moment nonetheless, and I absolutely love it. And would I say that it's my favourite song of the year? I would say it could easily be. Just depends. You might ask me tomorrow and I might say, now Machine Head or Arch Enemy, because for whatever reason. But you know what? For the purpose of this, for the very fact that it was my favourite album of the year, I thought, you know what? The Mighty Saxon, they deserve the number 1 spot. So I'm going with The Pilgrimage from the mighty Carpe Diem. Just magnificent stuff. So there you have it. There is my top 10, the No Nonsense Metal Reviews top 10 songs of 2022. So before you hurl the abuse and the criticism at me, just bear in mind these are my personal choices, of course, and you know what? Let's hear your choices as well. I want to hear what you think of these particular picks. What do you think of these albums? What do you think of these tracks? Have you got a different favourite track from Of Kingdom and Crown or from Deceivers or Omens? What are your favourite songs of 2022? You know, this is all good, friendly, harmless stuff. We're just talking metal, talking music, having a discussion. And that's what it's all about. That's what this inclusive scene is all about. So, give you a quick rundown in ascending order this time, or descending order rather. My number 1 from Saxon's Carpe Diem was The Pilgrimage. Then we've got Machine Head with their mighty Of Kingdom and Crown. And that particular favourite on there has to be Slaughter the Martyr. My number 3 from Deceivers by Arch Enemy was The Watcher. Magnificent track that is. From Hate Uberles by Creator, we have Become Immortal. From Amorphis, with their stunning album Halo. We had The Moon, Viking Gods, a Monomath. From the Great Heathen Army, we have Hadron, a fun party tune for all. Lamb of God. From Omens, we had Ditch. Slipknot. From The End So Far, we have H377. To number 9 now, Lorna Shaw. From Pain Remains, we have Welcome Back, O Sleeping Dreamer. And number 10 for me was Disturbed with Bad Man from Divisive. Thank you very much for watching, my friends. Do feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. We're doing really well at the minute, actually. We're building that metal community, which is what it's all about. Absolutely love it. So feel free to share your views, your opinion. You know, I want to hear it. But hey, we're all friends here. We're all brothers and sisters of the heavy. That's what it's all about. So thank you very much for watching, my friends. Do check back soon for more reviews and recommendations of all things good and heavy. As always, you take care, my friends. Stay heavy.